The topic I wanted to cover today is really about the difference between feeling moved by something and having to move. And even as I say that, can we feel into the difference when we're moved by something? It could be an emotion. It could be a piece of art that instills and inspires emotion that moves us to maybe tears or energizing excitement, or it may inspire your own creativity. We may be moved by some emotions that feel really uncomfortable. We may be moved by anxiety. And then there are so many emotions that can come in at such the same time that we don't feel moved anymore. We feel pretty stuck and stagnant, or even completely overwhelmed and frozen. And sometimes those emotions can pile up so much that we really get completely overwhelmed. That leads us into a place of total immobilization, what we call depression, right? What's so interesting when we work with different plant medicines, they can really help to awaken. And all of a sudden, I know some people on this call have worked with folks who have experienced some of that, where all of a sudden people are feeling again. And it can feel overwhelming to even feel any sensation in the body. And the whole purpose of that awakening is to be in the nervous system in such a way that we can be moved again. And before we get in, just to kind of settle into this lesson for a moment, I would love for us to play with shifting our energy states before we even introduce ourselves, because I like to do that on this call. So if we can all practice, take any hand that feels comfortable for you, dominant or not, and take your middle finger and put it in the center where maybe your bridge of your nose kind of dips in a little bit between the eyes, not quite up in the third eye, a little bit lower. And I want you to take a deep breath in. Exhale here. We're going to breathe in again. And we're going to allow your finger to travel down to the left, up and around that left eye. Exhale at the bridge. And then around the right eye. Inhale at the bridge. Travel up and around. Exhale at the bridge. Down and up and around. Inhale at the bridge. Up and around. Exhale at the bridge. Down and around. Inhale at the bridge. And keep going with this breath pattern, making a figure 8. Finding the pace that matches your breath, where each time we reach that midpoint, we're either inhaling or exhaling. Really feel that figure 8, that symbol of infinity, that symbol of infinite expansion, infinite energy, infinite access to experiencing the world as we know it. Just feel that shape moving you. Allow that shape to move you. And at the next round, as we reach the next exhale, let your arm drop. And just breathe here for a moment. and feel the echo of that shape still moving around your eyes. Just in a natural breath here. Giving yourself time to land. Allowing that shape to move us into a little bit more stillness. And as you're ready, just allow your eyes to gently open at your readiness. So this question came about. I was with, well, I'll admit the embarrassing part. I was invited to my friend's 2-year-old birthday party, her 2-year-old's birthday party. I'd never met her child before. Horrible friend. I was like, I got to make it to this birthday party. I live in Santa Cruz. She's up in Oakland. It's not that far, really. An hour and change, right? I was like, I'm going to make it to this birthday party. I get there as the party was ending. Not the best moment, right? But it actually worked out perfectly because I actually got to spend quality time with them. So I was very appreciative of my wonky sense of timing in that case. And she was too, actually. And so I get there and they're cleaning up, and they had their birthday party in a communal room in the apartment building that she lives in. And she's a single mom. There's no other parent. She had this baby on her own. Very brave of her. Very overwhelming experience. And she holds a shit ton of anxiety. And it was very cool to see her in mom mode and how her energy got organized by this child. It was beautiful, actually, to witness. And she's kind of a little frantically cleaning up because she has to get out of this room. And she's putting all the things in these bags. And her little 2-year-old, I'm watching him, and he picks up the stack of cups. And mom rushes over and grabs the cups. And I looked at him, I was like, oh, you were helping. And his eyes lit up. And I went to grab the bag, and I was like, Jess, give him back the cups. So she gives him the cups, and I grab the bag, and he puts the cups in the bags, and he's elated that I noticed what his intention was. And then he started pushing in the chairs. He knew what was happening. He knew it was time to clean up. Mom was a little nervous trying to get everything out of the room, and it's overwhelming to throw a party like that by yourself, right? And so she's still in the energy of all of that. And her kiddo was doing such a fabulous job following along and getting things done and being a helper and pitching in. And it was so cool, that moment where he noticed that I noticed him. That he doesn't have clear verbal communication yet, right? But his physical communication was so clear. And I could see how there was such a deep yearning for connection that, most of us have, especially at that age. And the ways that we are moving and moved by our environment to facilitate a sense of connectivity. Now, he wasn't sitting there going, well, would mom be proud of me if I picked up the cups and started helping her clean up? Or, I'd really rather play. Should I go play? Like, there was none of that happening. He just turned 2. He doesn't have that sense of cognition yet. That prefrontal cortex that's mediating all of these decisions we're making all fucking day, that's not happening yet. And what's driving most of the behavior of these little ones, all of us, when we're in that space, that age, is the need to survive, which comes from our capacity to imitate and to watch what's happening in the environment and to try to emulate and imitate what's happening so that we can be in connection with the moment. And it was really cool to see that clarity. It's like when I used to teach and we'd see, at cleanup time and the song happens and the kids start cleaning up. And I'd always have the parents go, my kid doesn't do that at home, right? My kid doesn't do that at home. Yeah, because the group, that vicarious reinforcement of being in the flow of a group helps to carry us along.
And the song helps.
Right, absolutely. The song does wonders. I actually had to train myself to enjoy cleaning as an adult. And I remember I did that with, yes, a little bit of cannabis, but also music that helped move me to get me in the flow of my environment and wanting to clean. Cut to another human being that I work with who also holds a lot of anxiety. And her anxiety leads her to a lot of stuckness and overwhelm. And she was telling me that there was a woman who is interviewing her at the local paper, that she's a woman-owned business in this town. And the woman emailed her some questions to make sure that the interview information was accurate, that she got the right information and she was writing about it accurately. And so she wrote back and actually corrected some of the wording that the journalist had delivered to her. And the journalist called her to follow up. And on the phone, my client said to her, I'd really appreciate if you could send me the final draft before publication so that we could do this once more to make sure that you got the information accurately, since there were so many mistakes, right? But she said it very graciously. And the woman got very tight and very angry and abruptly hung up the phone. This sent my client in a spiral. And typically that would have pummeled her. She's describing this to me and she said, I got really nervous that I pissed her off. And I sat for a minute and I decided to call a friend of mine who's also a writer. And my friend said, you do not do that. That is not protocol. You do not ask someone to send something before publication. Like, you don't usually get that opportunity. Like, that was not your call to make. And she's like, well, should I call her back? Like, I feel really badly. Like, she's writing a piece about me. I don't want her to write this piece with the energy of not being able to stand me, right? And her friend said, do not call her back. Leave it. Like, that, just let it go. And she said to me, she's like, that didn't sit right with me. That's not me. That's not how I handle things. I heard what she said, but that didn't match something internally. And so I was moved to call this woman back. They had a lovely conversation. And it ended up wrapping up much nicer than where it had left off, right? Why am I telling this story? Because this is somebody who is telling me the story as if she did something wrong. She wasn't proudly telling me this. She was like, I had a mess of a week. This is what happened. I'm hearing this and I'm like, what a success. What a success. Typically, you would have gotten so overwhelmed by emotion, so overwhelmed by your anxiety. You would have been stopped in your tracks. You wouldn't have even called your friend. But you allowed yourself to call the friend. Then you allowed yourself to feel yourself and align with yourself, follow through with that. You were moved to call this woman back. You had a lovely conversation. It all ended up beautifully. She was like, oh. And when I think of these two stories, the little kid and the adult woman, and how much complexity happens in all the years in between, both internally and the way life moves us or doesn't, right? The complications of all of our lives. But it really made me think about this difference between when we allow the emotion to come up, when we allow ourselves to identify it, anger, for example. And in that organizational process, we then can allow ourselves to figure out what to do.